Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're launching ourselves, maybe not literally, into the world of high jump.
Definitely safer this way.
Right. We've pulled together some really interesting stuff, official rules, history, how the athletes actually do it.
Yeah, the goal is basically to get a solid grasp of this amazing event, you know, cut through the complexity and find the core of what makes it tick.
Exactly. So let's start at the beginning. The objective seems simple enough.
It really does.
Yeah.
Get over a horizontal bar, jump higher as it goes up. Crucially, though, you have to take off from 1 foot.
Always 1 foot.
Always 1 foot. That's been the constant rule, the bedrock of the whole thing right from the start.
Okay, so jumping off 1 foot. But what counts as not making it? What's a foul? Obviously, knocking the bar off.
That's the main one, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's more.
Mhm.
You can't touch the ground or the landing area beyond the plane of the bar before you've actually cleared it.
Okay, so no scrambling under it.
Exactly. And here's one that might surprise you even if you get over the bar cleanly. If you then touch the uprights holding the bar, and that causes the bar to fall, that's a fail too,
Wow. So clear means clear all the way through.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Or, if you steady the bar after you land. Can't do that either. And, well, obviously failing to get your whole body over counts.
Makes sense. And there's a time limit too, isn't there? You can't just stand there forever.
Right. There is. It adds a bit of pressure. In high school, for example, you usually get 60 seconds once your name is called.
Just 1 minute.
Yeah, but it changes. When there were only, say, 3 athletes left, it bumps up to 3 minutes.
Oh, interesting.
And if it's down to just one person going for maybe a record attempt or something, they can get up to 5 minutes. It's definitely a mental element.
I bet. Performing under that clock. And there are other rules too, right? Things about like safety and fairness.
Oh, yeah. Standard stuff, mostly. You got to check in, obviously. Any open wounds need to be covered properly. And things to keep it focused on the actual performance, like in high school, no watching videos of jumps during the competition. No wireless communication either.
Keeps the playing field level, I suppose.
And the equipment itself has gotten way more specific over time. Around 2003, World Athletics, they used to be the IAAF and USATF, brought in stricter standards.
Like what?
Things like the pegs the bar rests on for pole vault got shorter, and the ends of the bars for both high jump and pole vault had to be semicircular. Just ensures they sit the same way every time.
Consistency.
Exactly. They even started marking the bars themselves, all about making it fair and accurate wherever you compete.
And the landing mats, the pits, they're not all the same size.
No, they vary. The minimum dimensions change depending on the level, high school and NCAA international meets. Runways, too, they have different length requirements.
It shows how regulated it is at every level.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And judging a jump is pretty clear-cut. White flag for a good jump, bar stays on.
Red flag for a fail.
Yep. Though, there's an interesting little rule. Is something external, like a freak gust of wind, knocks the bar off after the athlete is clearly over it?
The jump still counts.
It does. But if the wind knocks it off before they clear it, or any other time due to something external, they get another try.
Fair enough. And measuring the height. How precise are we talking?
Very. They use a steel tape measure from the lowest point on the upper surface of the bar,
The lowest point, okay.
straight down perpendicular to the ground. So it's always that lowest edge they measure from, not necessarily the middle. It has to be exact.
That detail really matters for records, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Every millimeter counts at that level.
So who are the people doing this? It feels like a classic track and field event.
Oh, it absolutely is. It's a core event for both men and women, right from school level all the way up to the Olympics and the World Championships. It's everywhere.
And it's truly global, right? We see athletes from all over.
Definitely. World Athletics keeps world rankings, top lists.
Yeah.
It shows this huge international community pushing each other.
Is there, like, a way for athletes to have a say in the sport?
Yeah, actually, within World Athletics, there are athletes representatives and an athletes commission.
Yeah.
So they have a formal way to be involved in, how the sport is run and governed.
That's good to hear. Okay, let's get into maybe the most visually interesting part, how the way people jump has changed so much.
The evolution of technique. It's a fantastic story. Early on, you had Styles like the Eastern Cutoff and then the Western Roll became quite big.
The Western roll.
Yeah, George Hareen really pioneered that one. He actually set a world record of 2.01 meters way back in 1912 using it. It involved like a diagonal run-up and rolling over the bar face down. This is the top technique for decades, really, up until around the 1936 Olympics.
And then came the straddle.
Exactly. That took over, especially with American and Soviet jumpers. Similar approach, but they'd rotate more to be almost flat, belly down over the bar.
And they got higher with that.
Oh, yeah. Charles Dumas was the first ever to clear 7 feet, that's 2.13 meters, using the straddle in 1956. John Thomas pushed it further. And then Valery Brumel, a Soviet jumper, he just dominated in the early 60s.
Brumel, I've heard that name.
Yeah, incredible athlete. Set the record at 2.28 meters. Known for a really fast, powerful approach with the straddle.
But then, everything changed.
Then came the revolution. The Fosbury Flop.
Dick Fosbury.
Dick Fosbury. He wasn't necessarily the top guy initially, but his technique was just completely different. He ran diagonally towards the bar, then sort of curved away from it and launched himself backwards over it. Head and shoulders first.
Backwards. It sounds so unnatural.
It did, but the physics worked. By arching his back like that, he could actually get his center of mass to pass under the bar while his body went over it. More efficient.
That's wild. And wasn't there someone else who developed something similar?
Yeah, remarkably, Debbie Brill in Canada came up with a very similar technique around the same time, independently, called it the Brill Bend.
Amazing coincidence. But Fosbury's Olympic win really cemented it.
Oh, absolutely. Winning gold in Mexico City in 1968 with the flop. That just blew everyone's minds. Suddenly, coaches and athletes everywhere started experimenting with it.
Who were the first big names to switch and succeed?
Well, Dwight Stones was the first guy to set a world record using the flop. That was in '73. And for the women, Ulrike Mayfarth was super early and successful. She won Olympic gold in '72, tying the world record.
Wow, right away.
Yeah. And Sarah Simeone became the first woman to actually break the world record with the flop in 1978.
And there were others who made it popular, too.
Definitely. People like Franklin Jacobs, this guy cleared almost 60 centimeters over his own height. Just incredible.
No way.
Yeah. And Dichi Chen, Zhu Jianhua, Gerd Vessig, Dietmar Mogenberg, Patrick Soberg, all major male floppers. And Mayfarth and Simeone really led the charge for the women. By the late 80s, maybe early 90s, basically everyone at the top level was using the flop. The straddle just faded away.
So the flop one, how does it actually work? What's the technique breakdown?
It's pretty intricate. It starts with the approach run, usually about 8 to 10 steps total.
Okay.
The first few steps are straight, building up speed, crucial speed. Then the last, maybe 5 steps, are run on a curve, like the letter J.
The J approach, I've heard that term.
Exactly. And athletes mark their starting point, their steps, very precisely. Consistency is key. You can't just wing it.
And it's not just about where you put your feet, right? It's the speed and rhythm.
Totally. The timing, the aggression in the run-up, it has to be right. Too slow, not enough momentum. Too hesitant, you lose the power.
So that J shape is important. Why the curve?
Well, the curve does a couple of things. It helps generate centripetal force, that inward lean. It naturally starts turning the body. And it sets up the perfect angle for takeoff, so you can convert that horizontal speed into vertical lift effectively.
And you lean into the curve.
Yeah, but importantly, leaning from the ankles, keeping the body tall, not bending at the waist or hips. That's a common mistake.
Okay, so you run the J, you're leaning,
Yep.
then take off. Single foot, obviously.
Single foot, the one farthest from the bar. And you plant it, angled slightly, usually towards the back opposite corner of the landing pit.
Angled, okay.
Then it's an explosion upwards. Drive the knee of the other leg, the non-takeoff leg, up high and fast. And usually swing one or both arms upwards too, adding to the lift.
Is the takeoff point always the same spot?
Not quite. And that's interesting. With the straddle, jumpers tended to take off from roughly the same place relative to the standards. But flop jumpers, they actually adjust their takeoff point as the bar goes higher.
How so?
They typically move slightly farther away from the bar for their takeoff as the height increases. It changes the trajectory needed.
That adds another layer of complexity. So much physics involved.
There really is. Getting the right amount of backward rotation, the lean angle at takeoff. It's biomechanics in action. It's not just jumping ability.
Do they practice just the approach?
Oh, constantly. Drills like running the curve over and over, maybe running in spirals, trying to nail that feeling of generating lift at the last second without leaning into the bar too soon. You want the curve's momentum to carry you up and over.
And then the flight itself. That iconic back arch.
Yeah, that upward knee drive helps start the rotation. Shoulders go back, hips lift. You create that arch to get your hips over the bar. Then, often looking back over one shoulder helps time the final part.
Which is
Kicking the legs up and over to clear the bar with your heels. It's a whole sequence, perfectly timed.
incredible coordination. So where do we see the absolute best doing this? What are the main events?
The pinnacles are definitely the Olympic Games and the World Athletics Championships. Those are the ones every high jumper dreams of winning.
The big ones.
Yep. Then you also got the World Athletics Indoor Championships, which is a major global title during the indoor season.
And what about regular season competition?
For that, the Diamond League Series is huge. It's a series of top-tier one-day meets around the world. And there's also the World Athletics Continental Tour, another series of important international meetings. That's where you see the elite competing regularly.
Plus national championships, I assume.
Of course, national championships in each country are often the gateway to making those international teams. Very important.
Okay, let's talk legends. Who are the absolute icons of the high jump?
Well, for the men, you have to start with Javier Sotomayor from Cuba. His world record is 2.45 meters.
2.45 meters. That's almost 8 feet half an inch.
It's immense. And he set that back in 1993. It's the longest standing men's world record in high jump history. Just shows how incredible that jump was.
Wow. And the women's record?
That's much more recent. Yaroslav Maluchik from Ukraine just set it in 2024, clearing 2.1 meters.
2.10. Also amazing.
Truly. Then you have the specific records for the big championships. Olympic records are Charles Austin for men, 2.39 meters, and Yelena Slisarenko for women, 2.06 meter. And world championship records belong to Bodin Bondarenko, 2.41 meter, and Stefka Kostadinova, 2.09 meter.
Kostadinova. Her name comes up a lot.
She was phenomenal. A Bulgarian jumper, multiple world records, multiple world titles, just utterly dominant for a long time. Her 2.009 meter record stood for ages, too, until Mahuchik broke it.
Any other women who really stand out?
Oh, definitely. Think of Blanka Vlasic from Croatia, Anna Chitarova, Costa Bergfist from Sweden, Hestri Kloit from South Africa, Ariane Friedrich from Germany, Maria Lesitsky, all incredible competitors, multiple medal winners.
It's quite a list. Is it rare for someone to hold all the big titles and the record at once?
Extremely rare. In fact, only 3 high jumpers in history have ever been Olympic champion, world record holder simultaneously. Kostadinova, Sotomayor, and now Mahuchik.
That's elite company.
Truly elite. And of course, we shouldn't forget the pioneers. We talked about Harine, Dumas, Brumel, and Fosbury himself. They shaped the event.
Yeah, absolutely. And even now, you can track who's performing best each season through the rankings.
Exactly. The season's best lists always show who's currently at the top of their game.
So who's actually in charge of all this? The rules, the records, the big competitions?
That would be World Athletics. As we mentioned, they used to be the IAAF, the International Amateur Athletic Federation, then the International Association of Athletics Federations.
Right. Founded way back.
1912. Sebastian Coe is the current president. They're the governing body for all of track and field, basically, including high jump.
And what exactly do they do? Seems like a big job.
It is. They standardize all the rules. We talked about some specific high jump ones like TR26 and TR27. They certify tracks and facilities worldwide to make sure they meet standards.
Okay.
They are the official keepers of world records, and they organize or sanction the major championships, like the Worlds.
How is it run? Is it just one person making decisions?
No, it's quite structured. There's a World Athletics Council that's the main decision-making group. It includes the president, VPs, heads of the different continental areas, athlete reps, other elected members.
Elected by who?
By the World Athletics Congress, which is made up of delegates from all the member countries, all the national federations. Plus, they have various specialized committees.
You mentioned continental areas?
Yeah, there are 6. Africa, Asia, Europe, North America, which includes Central America and Caribbean, South America, and Oceania. Helps manage things regionally. They have 214 member federations in total.
Wow, truly global. And what about things like doping? That's always a concern in sport.
Yeah, World Athletics takes a strong stance. They follow the World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA code. They handle testing and sanctions. It's an ongoing effort to keep the sport clean, like in all elite sports.
Do they recognize achievements beyond just medals and records?
They do. They have the annual World Athletics Awards Gala. It celebrates the top athletes of the year, but also other contributions to the sport.
So, thinking about the bigger picture, maybe the cultural impact, it feels like the high jump with its record chasing and Olympic moments really captures something about pushing limits.
I think so. Even if our sources didn't focus on that specifically, you can see it. The pursuit of records, the global recognition of athletes like Sotomayor or Costa de Nova or Mahuchik, it becomes part of sporting legend.
And the way the technique evolved, especially the Fosbury Flop becoming universal, that definitely had a huge impact within the sport itself.
Absolutely. And digging deeper, you really see it's so much more than just jumping. It's this constant search for efficiency, for finding a better way over the bar.
It's technique, it's conditioning.
Yeah,
You mentioned people discussing training, plyometrics, lifting.
right. And it's biomechanics. It's athletes and coaches analyzing every tiny movement to gain an edge. Even the flop itself hasn't stood still, has it?
No, you mean different athletes refine it.
Exactly. Little tweaks, different body types, finding slightly different ways to execute it effectively. Plus, you have to think about how rule changes, or even better landing pits allowing more attempts without injury, might have subtly pushed the sport forward too.
That's a good point. Safer landings might encourage more risk-taking or experimentation.
Potentially, yeah. It all feeds into this progression.
So, wrapping up this deep dive, we've seen the high jump go from a simple goal to this really sophisticated event. The rules, the incredible evolution leading to the flop, the dedication of the athletes, the role of world athletics. It's quite a journey.
It really is. And maybe a final thought for you listening. Isn't it fascinating how something seemingly so basic, jumping over an obstacle, has been totally revolutionized by human ingenuity, by that constant desire to improve?
Yeah, it makes you wonder.
What other simple things might hold that same kind of hidden depth for innovation? Maybe it's worth digging into the stories of these athletes, looking even closer at the tiny details that make the difference between clearing the bar and not.